Good evening, everybody. My name is George Wheeler, and we are live with Tom Hall here for the Global Security Leadership Weekly Broadcast. The Global Security Leadership Weekly Broadcast has been coming to you for several weeks now, and the last few weeks we've been talking about security awareness and security, keeping yourself, your family, it could be your workplace, your community safe. And today we have kind of a special program for everybody, and it's actually a topic that I love. And actually, I love it because probably back in the year 2000, maybe 2001, Tom Hall gave me a book, and it was called The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker. And I read this book, and it was really kind of funny. The first time I read the book, it took me about 2 months to read it. I kind of read it on and off. But for some reason, something happened either at work or in the news, and I thought, hey, I think I read something about that in the book. And I just went back and started over the book, and then I read the whole book in like a day. I just devoured the book in a day. And then I went back and I took notes in the book, and I earmarked the book, and I wrote in the book, and then I gave the book away. And then a little while later, I bought another book, and it was on my shelf for a while, and I gave it away. And then I've probably given the book away now, Tom. I've literally given the book away no less than 10 times. And sometimes when I would go to the store, even in Malaysia, when I was in Malaysia, I found the book on the bookshelf on sale, and I bought every copy they had, which was 4 of them. I don't think I bought 100 of them, but I bought 4 of them, and I don't have any of them today. Because when I gave one to my daughter, I gave one to my sisters. I think every woman needs to read this book. Tom, tell me, when we talk about fear and using fear, especially in our daily lives, a lot of people, they don't want to be scared, but we're not talking about being scared, Tom. What are we talking about when we talk about using fear?
Well, as security directors, George, what do we do in our profession? We take calls from individuals that become our clients because they are in fear of something taking place. And what is our role? Our role is to provide an antidote. And what is an antidote? Risk reduction. So people are afraid of things. And fear is generated based on something that's unknown, right? And so while they're afraid, the great thing about fear, George, we were talking about a benefit, the great thing about fear is because while you're fearful, whatever you're fearful about has not happened. So that's when when Gavin McDavin, when he talks about the gift of fear, it's that gift that we have. We know there is something about to happen. Cops, we talk about protecting our six. Somebody always getting our back, right? So something is about to happen. We're fearful, but it has not happened yet. That's that part of fear. That's what you and I started reading books like Kevin Michalowski's The Left of Bang. Making sure you're not where you shouldn't be. So you're afraid, but he's using situational awareness. I know I'm getting ahead of myself. He's using situational awareness to make sure he's not in that situation, so he does not have to be fearful. So back to your original question, one of the gifts of fear is that it's a warning sign that something is about to happen. Now there needs to be some action.
So Tom, one of the things I love about talking about kind of this gift of fear is that we're almost taught to suppress our feelings when we do feel afraid about something. A lot of times this is learned from our parents. So you'll see a small child, and then one of their friends will walk up to them, and you'll see the child kind of hide behind their parents' leg, and they won't want to come out and talk to this person. And the parents are like, "Oh, it's okay." They push the child out there. They say, "It's okay. Go talk to Bill. He's a really nice guy. Even though he looks kind of scary, he's a really nice guy. Don't be silly. Go talk to him." And they kind of force that on children. And we kind of unlearn all of this stuff because this is just innate to us. It's this instinct. It's intuitive for us to feel a certain way about things. But we spend our whole lives kind of after a while thinking, well, I shouldn't be afraid of this, or it's rude to feel this way about somebody. But Tom, that's really the wrong way and the wrong attitude to have when it comes to understanding this. And it's not always fear. A lot of times it's just this intuitive feeling that you get that something's wrong.
Yeah, that's why in the book it's called The Gift of Fear. And the strategy that you and I have adopted is that, we want to use it as an indicator. And as we train security officers and we train personnel in our teams to support others, we don't want to suppress it, but we want to teach people how to manage that. You have the young lady that's paranoid about walking in the parking lot. And I'm sitting down with her, and she's telling me she's just always paranoid about walking in the parking lot. But George, what has she done to alleviate those fears about walking in the parking lot? Nothing. Have we had any issues, George, of anyone being harassed or shot or shaken? Do we have bad light in the parking lot? No. She just has this innate fear about the parking lot. So now we need to take some actions so she can allay some of those fears. That's when guys like you and I come in to partner with them to show, this fear is that gift you had. You've got this thing in the back of your mind that something could happen. Yes, something could happen, but is it really going to happen? So let's kind of allay some of these fears so they won't be polarizing. And once again, that's where the situational awareness is going to come in, because that can help you allay some of the fears so your fears won't polarize you so that you can't take action.
And Tom, a lot of times we talk about this in terms of, I said, I've given this book out to a lot of women because we think that women are very intuitive. We always talk about that gift that women have about this feeling, mother's intuition, whatever you want to call it. But that's real. And a lot of times you may not recognize why you think something is slightly off or something is different. But for women, I think it's really important that they don't worry about offending people if they don't. We talked about this in a different one. If they don't get into an elevator, if the elevator opens up and there's two guys in there and you're in a hotel and you're going up to the 12th floor and you're in the lobby and they're coming out of like a parking garage or something, it's okay. It's okay not to get in that elevator with somebody. If you feel something is wrong, then you're not compelled to take an action thinking that this is just me being me again. And I think that's what a lot of people, guys, the same thing. Guys have to understand that anything can happen at any time. And we have an intuitive feeling also that we can let out there. And it's not always just for things like being afraid that, we could get raped or sexually abused or something like that. A lot of this can come into, you're on a security patrol, you don't know why, but you feel something is wrong, especially if you are law enforcement today. But you know something's wrong, but you're thinking, no, I'm just crazy. I'm going to walk down this alley anyway. You need to start heeding this feeling that we're having, because it's going to keep a lot of people alive if they listen to themselves and how they feel about these situations. Don't just think that your fear is crazy, that oh my God, it's just me I've watched too many movies, because sometimes that is real.
And George, when we talk about fear as a benefit, fear gets us moving. Fear can cause you to have some actions. Everyone out there that's watching us or listen to us, if they're parents out there and someone is hurting their child and they see the person that's striking their child and they're afraid, but at that moment, George, they overcome that fear and take action. So one of the things we try to get folks to do is if you're fearful, use some action with it. When the fear comes in, now it's time to start listening and be really in tune to your whereabouts once the fear takes its place. Because what you want to stop doing, George, you don't want fear to turn into worry. We can manage that, but worry is something that we voluntarily engage with. So when the fear gets there, start listening. Speaking like we don't want the fear to take us out of control. Hey George, let's say you joined the military when you were pretty young, and I'm sure you were on an assignment. It could have been based in basic training, but you were somewhere at some point where you were just so far out of your element that you were actually afraid. And what can happen then? Fear presents us this opportunity to reach down and do something spectacular. We all have this special greatness inside of us. And that's why we say, George, that fear can be a partner, because there's something inside. George, I was a kid from New York City, from the South Bronx, and I became a state trooper. And I remember for the first time I was alone by myself patrolling a rural county. And there weren't a lot of troopers that looked like me in that county, okay? And I was fearful. Maybe folks might be fearful of me because I had a weapon on me, but I was fearful. And it wasn't until something took place and I went to a scene of an assault and I had to step up and take control where that woman was being assaulted. And then I was able to overcome my fear. There's something we have that goes on, George, here. Bring that greatness to the top and overcome that fear. And we all have that innate ability to rise above the fear and be that great individual that we've been designed to be.
And Tom, I can't think of the author right now. There's a fantastic book out there. It's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways. And I love that title. But one of the things you talk about, growing up in New York City, becoming a state trooper, and I mean, I don't know if our paths as children could have been any different. I grew up in the country on a farm, and my graduating class from high school only had like 32 or 33 of us. I was out in a very rural area in a countryside of New York. And when I went to the military, yeah, there was a lot of things that these unknowns that I had no idea. I was eager. I wanted to learn all this stuff, but looking back at it, I was probably scared as heck. But as you do things in life, as you get experience, you realize, you start asking yourself, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? And then as you think of it that way, well, I can go ahead and do this. Let's take public speaking, for example. The first time I had to get up and speak in front of a group of people, that was a very scary thing for me. And it took me a little while. You have to do that a few times to really get over that. And then you start realizing, I think I learned more the first time, because the first couple times I did public speaking, it kind of like everything went right. I knew my material, everything was great. I didn't have any problems. And then that one time you get up there and you're talking in front of people, all of a sudden, the mic goes out, or you're on a slide, all of a sudden a slide comes up, and maybe when you were preparing your slide, you forgot to take something out, or you put something in, and all of a sudden you draw a blank. Oh, what was that there for? I don't even know what I'm doing. But you have to realize, sometimes it's not until you fail at something like that you realize, well, if that's the worst thing that can happen to me, I can move on fine with everything else. And I think that's a good analogy, because a lot of people are afraid of public speaking, but then they do it a few times and they're okay. And we're going to take kind of fear somewhere else here later, or either later today or in another episode. But Tom, I think a lot of people they are afraid of the unknown, and they just have to get through it and do it, and then realize that it can be done, and that helps people grow.
Absolutely. You brought up public speaking. I used to take public speaking in academies. I'm doing it in corporate now. And think about it, George. Is it really the fear of public speaking, or is it the fear of failure in front of an audience? Is it the fear of being viewed incompetent, or is it the fear of being disorganized? So what's the best way to overcome that? Preparation. In the role I'm in right now, when I first started, folks that were on my team would just say, you spend so much time preparing for this 10-minute presentation, to them it looks senseless, but to a point where I can do it almost effortlessly, and I'm very comfortable in front of the audience. That way I can push the fear downward, and I can bring that greatness that I want them to see upward. But the only way to overcome that is through preparation. Preparation is the best cure for those sort of fears, like a public speaking. Because I don't want it to get into worry. Because remember, when fear goes to worry, now you got a problem, because you've invited worry. It's bad enough to try to manage the fear, but when you add fear to worry, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, that's there. George, I'm already afraid, and now I'm worried. I'm already afraid about what the doctor might say tomorrow. Now I'm worried about it. In addition to that, you're going to the doctor, you're going to face the music. His statement is going to be the same whether you don't get any sleep tonight or not. So now you're all anxious, and you're bringing that on, and you're sweating bullets. And now your blood pressure doesn't take your blood pressure with a tire gauge. Your blood pressure's up, and now you're more ill now than you would have if you just gone there this morning. So when you go ahead and manufacture the worry and add that to the fear, you're exacerbating your anxiety and just make things a little worse for you. So we're trying to give you some ideas here about managing that fear and overcome it. It's not going to go away, because remember, it's a gift that's given to you for a reason, because it's something that maybe you need to be aware of, but you got to have action so you can manage the worry.
Tom, it's kind of funny. One of the things I absolutely love doing is going to like children's plays, or when children have to get up in front of a group of people, because their emotions, like we can. I mentioned, the first time I failed kind of speaking in public, I could play that off, and I learned that actually when something happens that's unexpected, use humor, and it actually gets you through it. Because if you hear the people out there laughing, or if you would just realize that I can use any situation, a humorous thing, it really works to your advantage. And absolutely being prepared is something you have to do. But children, you talked about it, kind of a what's what I'm looking for? Like, I'm not going to think it was transgressional, but taking them from on stage, they're already worried, then, or they're kind of scared. Then something happens, and they add worry to scare, and then the next one is just sheer panic. But with a child, you can see that in their face the entire time they're up on stage, and it might even get to the point where you've seen children just start crying. But that's kind of, if you look at it from that standpoint, we kind of go through those same phases even as adults. We may not start crying when we do this, but we still kind of go from, hey, I'm a little bit scared about these things, to, boy, I'm really starting to get worried about this, to full-blown panic. But Tom, you kind of started talking about worry a little bit, but what are some of the signals for fear?
Some of them is this involuntary fear that comes. The worry is number one. That's the involuntary piece that comes with it, because we manufacture that. Like, okay, I'm a cancer survivor, George. So I go to the doctor probably more than most over the years. I was always make sure that I didn't miss anything. And I'll go to the doctor once, and he says, "This doesn't look right." I'm seeing to a specialist. This doesn't look right. And I was actually overcome with fear. And it took some time for me to be able to pull. So we get this involuntary will bring the worry. It was great to find out that I could partner with the doctor. We were in sync. And then my test was great, but we were able to our recovery exceeded all the expectations, because I was able to push fear down. And I'm not advocating any sort of religion here, George, but what works for me when I'm in fear is prayer, because you're doing something. When people start worrying, George, because worry is part, when people start worrying, they become inactive. It's just like the ringing of the hammer. So what are you really doing? So at least when I'm praying, I'm active. I'm getting stronger. I'm feeling more positive. So that's what helps me face the music. Some people listen to music. Some people read. When I pray, it just strengthens me. I'm one-on-one with my particular creator, and now I'm not alone in this. There's two of us facing this. And when two of us are there, that's had before. So now we're 100% because I got a partner. So for me, George, signal of fear, it's involuntary that comes in. The worry is voluntary. What's the antidote? Listening. What is actually going on? What is actually going on around you? Think about this, George. Most of the bad things that happen to us in our life were actually things that we thought were going to happen that didn't happen. You're on the way to see your commanding officer. You're sweating bullets. The chief of police has asked to see Trooper Tom Hall. There's a sergeant, there's a first sergeant, there's a lieutenant, there's a captain, there's a major, lieutenant colonel. But the colonel, they're going to go through all these guys to see me. The whole drive to headquarters, George, I think I'm being fired. And I get there, and I had done such an exemplary job that they wanted me to represent my department at this conference in Canada. By the time I get there, I've got perspiration rings in my uniform because I've been perspiring the hallway because I got an audience with the colonel. The manufactured fear called worry. What exactly did that do for me? Manufactured fear.
Yep.
It impacts, it makes us stationary, and it limits us.
And Tom, there's a couple of things that I want to bring back to light. And one, you never have to apologize for actually throwing something like prayer in there and thinking that's too religious, because pretty much every religion incorporates some kind of prayer. And one of the things that a lot of people do find is that when they are praying, they don't feel alone, because a lot of times fear is that fear of being alone with something. And when you do pray, it doesn't matter who you're praying to, or even if you're just gratefully wishing that somebody else was there, but it doesn't really matter. What I'm saying is a lot of people are just afraid that they're doing something by themselves. And, it could be thinking about somebody that you've read about in your training that had to go through a similar situation and how they handle that situation. And that kind of gets back to the what if thing, Tom. A lot of times, especially being in the military, some of the situations we're in, if you start feeling that kind of, you start feeling, well, I'm feeling a little uneasy here because I'm kind of in this uncharted territory. I've never really been here. I really made a mastery of playing what if. And then I could explore all the possibilities. And I try to explore the worst case scenarios first, and I bring it back down to what's more likely to happen. But the what if scenario can really help people overcome some kind of fear. And it doesn't matter. It could be a leadership situation where you have to, you're nervous about going into a room because you have to deliver bad news or whatever it is. I advocate for the what if kind of method to get yourself prepared for what could possibly happen.
George, I love that one. I've been a bodyguard most of my life. I'm a personal protection specialist. I've run a security detail for governor's detail. I've run security detail for many executives. And what do you think bodyguards do? We play the what if game. There's a lot of standing and positioning. Let's say if my protectee is on a podium giving a speech and I'm somewhere in the background, I'm playing the what if game. What if someone rushes the podium? What if the chair that he's been designated to sit in has a tack in it? That is a job limiting accident for me. If the governor sits down and attack right after the speech, right? Something, all the possibilities. So one of my favorite parts of the job was to be the advance guy, the guy that goes ahead. Before the dignitary gets to this particular hotel, the advance guy goes ahead. So I have an opportunity to go through every area that he's going to go through. And what it does, George, I can establish a baseline. We're getting back to what we talked about earlier, situational awareness. I can establish a baseline on what goes into this hotel. He's going to eat at this restaurant. What takes place at this restaurant during a normal setting? It's not a lot of noise, pretty quiet. Exits, very visible. Cashier working, a lot of movements in here. Now I've got a baseline of what to expect when we do come back. I've asked the right questions. I've interviewed the right people. I know about upstairs, downstairs. So like you said, so I know if something should happen there, I know where my exits are. The what if game is something that us bodyguards have used extensively. And it keeps you on your toes, and it pushes the fears, as you said, the fears and the worries and the anxieties away from you because you feel a lot more confident because you anticipate everything that could go bad.
And Tom, when you look at doing personal protection, I used to always think that it's my job in that case to kind of worry or to have those fears so that the person I'm responsible for, so they don't have them. And I think a lot of people have to look at it kind of in that sense. It doesn't matter really what's happening, whether it's your family. Let me take care of these things so that my family doesn't have to worry when certain things are happening. Because, you talk about great leaders on sports teams carrying their team with them, or putting away on their back and carrying them with them. It doesn't have to be a sports team. Like I said, it could be your family, it could be your office, department, whatever it is. You could be thinking about those scenarios and how to handle those scenarios. So when they do come up, if they come up, you're prepared for them. And I think fear does prepare us if we don't let it overcome us.
That's very good. You better coin that one, George. That is very that is very good. And that's what I've used.
I don't know that I would remember that.
Well, it's okay. We'll have video, so we'll have a record of it. But yeah, I like that one. That's another great way of managing. Once again, we're gonna play the what if game. I love that. And over preparation, I prepare for this presentation. Although I've been doing this and talking about fear and doing these presentations my whole career, I've been in this business over 30 years. Nevertheless, I have some notes in front of me. I'm not going to just rely on my memory, because if I forget some things, everybody will get a little nervous, George. I'm going to start worrying. I don't want that anxiety. The audience didn't tune in to have me not know what I'm talking about. So I know, but I also have some notes to keep me in sync to make sure. Everything is about the quality of preparation. If you want to limit your stresses, limit the worry, limit the fear, prepare. Preparation. George, I was a kid in the fourth grade in the band at school. For a sour note, I was playing trumpet. And the music teacher came over to talk to me about I was supposed to hit, I think, a B flat. I hit something else. And he came to discuss that with me. And I said, but I practiced all night. He said, yeah, but Tommy, if you practice wrong, you play it wrong. So I learned, we rehearse, George, but we try to rehearse it till we get it right. Now that you got it right, rehearse it right. So you want to allay some fears, George? Over prepare and be prepared for everything. We talked about being the bodyguards. Over prepare. Your protectee should not have to worry about it because you should have it all in sync.
And Tom, that really goes into leadership too. Whether you are providing personal protection, whether you are on stage speaking or whatever that might be, you take those experiences that you gain from each situation, and as you grow as an individual, and as you mature in your careers and you start taking higher level positions within organizations, you really learn from those experiences so that when things do come up that are new to you, when you take over a new position, you always think you're ready for that position. You're ready for anything that, that comes at you, but all of a sudden things are coming at you that you didn't expect. But as long as you get the experience from learning how to handle those things, then you're able to do your job much more effectively. You come across as much more confident. And I think when you start overcoming small fears that you have, it might just be, like you said, crossing a parking lot at night. Start doing some of the things. Like I said, feel the fear and do it anyway. Start doing some of those things. Even if somebody's watching you at first, go across that parking lot with somebody sitting back in the building watching you, not letting you out of sight. When you can overcome that, you start realizing all of the things that you can overcome. It makes you grow, it makes you stretch, and it makes you better at whatever it is that's coming your way when things come your way that, hey, I've never handled this before, but I've got this because I know I'm confident in myself that I'll take information around me. And that's really what you're doing. And you kind of talked about this. When you feel fear, one of the antidotes is to listen. And whether you're crossing the parking lot and your senses are hyper aware, your eyes, your ears, everything, you're listening, you're looking around. What dangers are around me? You might feel this all the way till you get to the car. Get in the car, all of a sudden now you start feeling a little bit safer. But you have to become hyper aware of all the data, everything that's available to you so that you can bring all that information in, you can internalize it, you can get some good advice if you need it, but you can start making good decisions. I'm here to tell you that as a leader, one of the things that will stymie, I don't know a better word to put it right now, your position or your reputation as a leader, than the inability to make a decision. And people won't make decisions because they're afraid. They're afraid they'll get it wrong. They're afraid they'll make the wrong decision and people are going to laugh at them. They're afraid of looking bad. But fear keeps people from making decisions. And as a leader, not making a decision might cost you some money. It might cost you some of your reputation. It might cost you, something in a boardroom. It could cost you revenue, whatever it might be, especially if you're the leader of an organization and you have an opportunity to buy something, but I'm not going to make that decision. I'm too scared. Somebody else comes in and takes it away. But in law enforcement, in the military, if you're afraid to make a decision, it could cost you your life, or it costs you the life of one of your comrades around you. So that's why it's so important that people learn to overcome their fears, Tom.
Absolutely, George. You hit the nail on the head. Once again, you and I are security directors, and the reason we're in this business is because someone was fearful and they contacted us and became our clients. Disruption to supply chain, personal protection, safety and security. So they come to us to help alleviate fears. So that's that. And if they bring up their fears to us and then we're fearful, well, we can't really be the antidote now, can we? But something, George, one of the reasons that it's hard for people to embrace the fears is because we have a problem now in society with concentrating on our surroundings, because this item here has taken control. So a woman walking to a parking lot, what you and I would do in personal protection classes would be to teach her to walk like she's on a mission, knowing where she's going, have her keys about to ready, and move almost 120 steps a minute, moving to where you're going. Now, everyone walks to the parking lot with their head down, text messages and Facebook, and no one is practicing situational awareness. That's why they've actually bought into being afraid, because of due to inattention. No matter where you go, if you're in a restaurant, you and I are going to go into the restaurant and there's going to be a baseline. We're going to look around the restaurant first. When we walk into an establishment, the first thing we want to know is, how do I get out of here if things go south? By nature, we're going to make sure that there's an exit strategy for George Wheeler or Tom Hall. That's how we've been trained. Most folks are going to go to the restaurant, get the table, and they're going to sit down. They're not going to know where anything is. If something does happen, they don't know how to get out of the place. You know, if there's a flood, there's a fire, something goes on, well, how do I get out? You know, George, I'm living in an apartment complex, and it amazes me when the fire alarm goes off, and my bride and I are going downstairs, and people is hanging around saying, what should I do? Is it a real fire? I said, well, I'm not going to hang around here with you to find out, Bubba. You know, I mean, it just makes no sense. We've given up any personal responsibility. Do you realize, George, that we are responsible for our own personal protection? Not your security officer, not your neighbor, not your mom and daddy. You are responsible for this body right here. So take a step away. The sun is shining. Take a look around. Enjoy. Know what's going on around you, and don't be limited by this.
And you know, Tom, a lot of people think that it's the police's duty to keep you safe. It's not. Their job is not to run around with everybody and keep them safe. Now, we create a lot of laws and we make things so it seems like we're taking away our own personal responsibilities and trying to give those liberties away, but it's your responsibility to keep you safe. But Tom, I want to ask you, speaking of fear, does the media create too much fear? Unnecessary fear, I should say.
I don't know, George. Unnecessary fear, too much fear. I don't know, because, you know, I love information. So you know how many websites I hit in the morning and then I've got to download. I like to know. So I think the more educated you are about what's going on around you, the more you can manage that. So for me, it really doesn't matter, because I'm going to get it from a number of different sources, and then I'm going to make a decision on something that's going to raise my anxiety. I'll decide. They're not going to raise my anxiety. I'm going to decide if my anxiety is going up, because I'm going to read. So I don't know about that. I think that if you're locked into one particular venue, and this is what I watch, and you know you're being managed by that particular channel, well, quite possible. But I'm going to bounce around. I want to hear different opinions, George. I want to hear from different parties, because I want to make intelligent decisions. And I think hearing from one voice. So if one guy's yelling and screaming that the world's coming to an end, I might switch stations to see what the other guys are talking about. And if he's the only guy yelling that the world's coming to an end, you know, I might come to the assessment that he might not know what he's talking about. But I'm going to make some intelligent decisions based on information. So I like to hear a variety of sources. So they can't scream too loud for me, because I'm going to listen to a variety of them to kind of level set my own expectation.
And Tom, one thing I threw that out there just kind of to see what your response would be, but I have to tell everybody that people need to understand that the media sells fear. That's how they sell advertising. That's how they get you to watch. When you look at the headlines on some of the papers, or if it's a news break on the television, they say coming up at 11, and they'll tell you something that's like, oh my God, I have to tune into that. They want you tuning in so that they can sell advertising. And when you know that, when you're truly aware that, you know, some of these stories are the perspective that they're coming from is one, to make you aware of things, but in a sense kind of to make you more attuned so that you will watch them. Then you can actually start to, just like you said, start to level out with something and realize, okay, this is information. I don't have to take the person who gave me this information and the way they gave it to me and think, oh my God, I'm in a panic now because all these things are happening. But news is all around us. Just, you know, it's on our phone. I don't know how many different organizations, I get these pop-ups on my phone, even my phone's not on. It's constantly beep, 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 whether it's Fox News, CNN, or some of the other stations with their highlights of what they want you to click on their app or their thing to go watch. And I rarely ever actually click. I've actually shut most of them off. And I've really tried to whittle down where I get my information from. And that's one of the purposes for ICR 360, actually, kind of a plug here for ICR 360, but it's to get people into a community where they can share information. And yes, the ICR 360 brings in news feeds from things that are happening all over the world, but then there's a discussion about those things to help people understand what those events mean to them, so you can make good business decisions based on good information, not based on fear.
Well, you said a mouthful there, George. Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons that I'm here associate with ICL 360, because I like the idea of getting a variety of news and getting it from all around the globe. And guys like you and I that have been very well traveled and been responsible for making sure people are safe as they travel around the globe. It's good to have a venue like this where you can have an exchange with security directors that have been these different places, and they can kind of help people allay some of the fears. I know when I was going to do an assessment to one of the Middle Eastern countries, I was working for a government contractor, and we were doing some business there, and the fear that my family had, George, they were in actual fear of me going to this particular country and just, why don't you just quit the job, Tom? You can get another job. Quit the job. So I had to allay their fears. The only way I could allay their fears, George, was with the information. And the more information I gave them, once again, based on the headlines, they've been hearing about different things. I said, well, don't put all those countries in that one basket. This is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing in preparation for it. And these are the number of issues that have taken place over the years. And once I broke it down, George, and got them away from the headlines, then it kind of allayed some of their concerns. But you're right, just like in the analogy that you gave, as soon as I mentioned the country I was going to, oh man, once I was going to a country in South America, and I thought that everybody at home was going to have a heart attack. I was one going, why are you guys having a heart attack, And then I tried to break it down, I've done my homework, this is what we're doing, and this is how many people have gone before me and come back safely. Let's have a little faith here, and let's manage some of these fears. Because if you're going to be a nervous wreck the whole time I'm gone, you're going to be sick. I'm the one going, and you guys are getting sick. So I had to help them manage through that, through information.
So Tom, I want to digress a little bit from fear to complacency, because I think what happens, and here's a really good example, is travel. The first time I traveled overseas, of course I was just a kid. I was 19 maybe. And I was moving to Turkey with the military. It was the first time I'd ever gone overseas. First time I'd ever been on an airplane that long. A lot of firsts for me, and I was probably scared to death. But now, when you start traveling a lot, it's just another thing. You get on a plane, you know where to go for the taxis. It's okay going through international airports, because if you can't read the signs, you know where to get the help from, and all kinds of different things that you kind of acclimate yourself to as you get the experience. But some people, they go from being fearful the first time they do something, then they do it again, and all of a sudden they become, oh, I got this. I got this now. And that's when it actually becomes dangerous for you, Tom. When you think you know what's going to happen next, but you don't know enough, and that's when you get ripped off through some kind of scam. That's when things can happen to you at airports. That's when you can get luggage stolen. That's when you just rest on your laurels and you stop really keeping that awareness about you. And when I'm traveling, I try to think of it this way. When I'm traveling, and I'm aware of the things that are going on around me. When I'm traveling, I'm not trying to think of everything else that I should be doing in my life, or I'm not constantly looking at my phone or on my computer. I can do those things, but not till I get to a place where it's appropriate to do those things. Because I see a lot of people trying to do them. Oh, I don't have to pay attention to this no more. I'll just sit here on my phone while I'm standing on the sidewalk. And Tom, I think that's when people let themselves and their families, maybe even their companies, down a little bit when they become complacent. And that's why fear is really a benefit to us, actually.
Absolutely, George. My dad gave me some advice one time and said that whatever it takes for you to get your wife is what it takes for you to keep your wife, right? George, whatever it took for us to travel abroad safely is what it's going to take for us to travel abroad safely the next time, So we have a system in place that we're going to use, and we're not going to deviate from that. Just because things seem to be going well right now doesn't mean things can't go south really, really quick. The wrong person can get on an airplane and change things dramatically. So those measures that I have in place that work, those measures I incorporate. If anything, I may take it up a notch, but I'm not going to reduce the processes that I have in place that have kept me safe in my movements in the security business the last 38 years. If this is not broken, fixing it, George. These things have kept me safe in all my travels. They've kept the people that I'm responsible for safe. So why would I deviate? So yeah, it's no time to take your foot off the gas now that we're cruising down the road. if things are working, this is the way. If anything, George, it's going so well. If anything, I might be a little more aware and raise my awareness because things are going just so well. So I'm always going to have the antennas up. I'm always going to be vigilant. You know, that once again, situational awareness, that quiet vigilance, I can take it up a step if I need to, but you're always going to still maintain that in order to be safe always, not just the 1 or 2 trips. Don't become complacent and say, well, you know, I got this at this point. You know, just because I was on patrol last night and nothing happened doesn't mean that there's not going to be a shooter out there in my face tonight. So I'm gonna have to be vigilant every night. You know, every night I'm prepared. When I was out there in the streets, every night you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know what you're gonna face. And when that radio call comes in, you're an army of one. So one of the great things about being a trooper, I got to depend on me. There's gonna be backup, but it's gonna be a while before he gets there. There's nothing like calling on the radio for help. And he says, I'm 1 county over, but I'm on the way. So that means that, you know, George, I'm gonna be responsible for this body. And if I want to be safe, I'm gonna have to practice and do those things consistently. Not just one time, but to consistently keep me safe so I can keep myself safe and my community.
Very good, Tom. Tom, I got one more thing to say in closing, but I want to wait till after. If you have anything that you'd like to say first, kind of in closing tonight on our topic.
The only thing I want to add to this, I really enjoy this topic about making fear a partner for your safety. And the only thing I'll add to this is that, you know, we should all train our families to practice situational awareness, because our children should practice situational awareness. They should know certain things about their surroundings around us. Situational awareness is something that's not going to take a lot of time from us, but once we practice it on a daily basis, it'll become part of our daily routine and it'll help keep us safe. So staying safe in a world that isn't, make fear a partner for your safety. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for your time again today, Tom. One of the things I wanted to kind of close with was I had a fear this week, as I had a few things happen that kept me from actually getting on a conference call, or a couple of conference calls, or webinars actually, that we had planned with ICR 360. We had planned on doing the webinars to help people navigate through the site better. I had a few things happen, but I wasn't able to communicate to everybody that we weren't going to be able to have those calls. So I'm going to reschedule them so that we make sure that the next time we reschedule them, and I will be putting out an email to everybody also, so that when you see these rescheduled, you can get back online and get those webinars at the appropriate times and places. And I promise that next time, if something's happening, we'll get that communicated out to everybody in an appropriate time, and that won't happen again. And Tom, again, I'd like to thank you for your time tonight. We will readdress this topic again later, but we're going to incorporate some other things that come from the book Gift of Fear, like pre-incident indicators, and talking about kind of how to really trust your intuition and the things that will help you in situations where you're feeling the fear, and you're going to use that fear to help you overcome some kind of danger. So thank you very much, everybody. We look forward to our next session, and we'll talk to you all in 1 week. Take care.